This is the graphic we've been starting off with recently, the new cases per million of the population. And we see the linear scale down the left hand side. The highest cases in Belgium and Czech Republic. Important to look at it per capita because normally these wouldn't show up because they're relatively low population countries. Leading the pack in the worst possible way, of course. Switzerland, Netherlands and France next, all with steep upwards trajectories. Then Spain, Poland and the United Kingdom. Germany going up but at the bottom, and the United States in terms of cases per capita in between Germany and the United Kingdom. So always like to look at it per capita there. It gives a more representative idea of how it's affecting the population as a whole. You are welcome to this video, of course. Now, I've got some interesting data now. I'm going to give you a study from Imperial College London. And that says there's 96,000 new cases per day in England alone. The R value is 1.56 and the R value is increasing towards 1.6 or 1.7. And the doubling time of cases in England is once every 9 days. That's according to the Imperial College London study. But I'm going to give you evidence from the King's College study, the Zoe collaboration with the COVID symptom tracker app, that says no, there's not 96,000 new cases per day in England. There's 43,569 cases in the UK as a whole per day. The R value is not 1.56. According to the King's College Zoe data. It's 1.11. The doubling time is not once every 9 days, it's once every 28 days. So what is going on here? And this is what we tell students to do in academic essays. We say, well, look at that side of the argument, look at that side of the argument, sort of thesis, antithesis, and come to a synthesis. So to tell you the truth, I'm not quite sure what the synthesis is at the moment, but we'll probably think of something as we go through. And then we'll have the good news story about dogs at the end, I think, if we've got any time left. Okay, so let's get straight on to the detailed information now. Just to illustrate the increasing cases, first of all. Angela Merkel, Chancellor, long hard winter ahead in Germany. Monday, quite significant restrictions being imposed in Germany, not quite a full lockdown. A much fuller lockdown being imposed by President Emmanuel Macron, in France, who said the country risks being overwhelmed by a second wave that no doubt will be harder than the first. No reason to assume President Macron is not well informed. Don't like the sound of that one little bit, I must say. And that's why they're having this fairly dramatic lockdown from Friday. So Germany, severe restrictions from Monday, France locking down from Friday. And I'm actually recording on Thursday night now, so basically it's from today for most of us watching. And of course, our thoughts go out to the people brutally murdered in the south of France. Today, our thoughts go out to their friends and families. Spain. Now Spain has got a 6-month lockdown, 6 months, sorry, not a lockdown, 6 months extended state of emergency. And if you think about it, that's taken us up to the 9th of May 2021. So Spain is planning this extended lockdown. Now I think what they've got in Spain, I think it's 17 administrative regions. And this state of emergency gives these regions quite a lot of localised power to impose curfews and restrictions and to close the borders. And indeed in Catalan in the north of Spain, the borders have been closed for the next 15 days. And this is a strategy that worked really well in Australia, didn't it? Because remember, in Western Australia, there's been no community transmission now for 6 months because the border's been closed. So that is the situation in Spain. Just to illustrate the increasing cases in Europe, really. Now, in the UK, we've got these 3 tiers in England, 5 tiers in Scotland. More areas are going into higher tiers. Wales is essentially locked down at the moment. So just to, I could spend the whole video bringing you up to date on that, but I'm not. It's all on the website. You just click on your postcode and it tells you. But just to illustrate that, going from up to from tier 1 to tier 2 from Saturday, quite a few regions in England, just to illustrate the amount of cases, amount of areas going into higher tiers in England, and it's a similar story in Scotland as well. Now, getting on to the main part of this talk today, the React study from Imperial College London, REACT, React study. Bit of a stretch, I know, but there you go. But the important thing is it's showing how people react to the virus, whether the virus can be detected in the nose, the mouth, the nasopharynx, the oropharynx at the back, or whether the finger prick study shows the antibodies. Now, this study is let's go through it. It's showing. Oh, by the way, that's the publication from Imperial College. That's the scientific paper on it. But this scientific paper is a preprint. So I want to stress now quite clearly, this study is not yet peer reviewed. But having said that, I've read it and it does seem to be quite reasonable, but peer reviewers have access to much more than me. But it's not a peer reviewed study, but it's being talked about very, very extensively on the media. So I think it's important for us to look at it and indeed to give a counter argument to it. And as I said, I haven't quite decided where the most accurate story is at the moment. So infections rising rapidly in England according to this. Now they've done 85,971, basically 86,000 swab tests. They're working up to 160,000 in this study. So this is an interim report in combination with Ipsos Mori, the polling people. Now this is the second round data they're reporting on now. The second round was from the 16th of October to the 25th of October, so mid-October. And they've worked out the prevalence is 1.28%. In other words, what they're saying here is 1.28% of the population of England is infected now. That is the live prevalence data. Now, how did they work that out? Well, these tests were self-administered and they found that 863 were positive. Now, you can see that's pretty well 1% of that, but they came out with 1.28 after adjustments. So they've adjusted that upwards somewhat. 1 to 8 per 10,000 people corresponds to 96,000 new infections per day. So 96,000 new infections per day is what they're saying. Let's just make a note of that. 96,000 new infections per day is what the Imperial is saying. Right, that's the Imperial figure. Now, it was so yeah, 1 to 8 per 10,000. That's right, 96,000 cases per day. Now, the first round of data collecting was the end of September to the beginning of October, and there they found it was 60 per 10,000. So what they're saying is it's more than doubled. So it's gone up from 60 per 10,000 end of September, beginning of October, up to 128 per 10,000 on data that finished being collected on the 25th of October, 2-3 days ago. So infections have greatly increased is what they're saying, and they're saying that this is true in all age groups and indeed in all areas of the country. So they do actually break that down quite helpfully into areas of the country. So different areas of the country, they're saying the prevalence there is in this areas, the Humber areas, up from 0.84 in the previous round, up to 2.7 now, dramatic increase. That's 1 in 40 people. I mean, wow, that's what they're saying. Northwest, they're saying the prevalence is 2.3, Northeast 1.2, and you can see the different prevalence areas. And remember, these are numbers of the whole population that are currently infected. So much lower in the south of England, and this is actually pretty well consistent with the COVID symptom tracker app data, where we see the northwest here with higher numbers, less in the south. So a Wales sort of north-south divide almost, according to the COVID symptom tracker app data. So that bit is reasonably consistent. The numbers aren't the same, but the pattern is similar. So that's those prevalence areas. Now, age and prevalence, 18 to 24-year-olds, 2.2% of those currently infected. Age 55 to 64, it's trebled since the first round. Remember, the first round was the end of September, beginning of October. Now, the mid-October up to the 25th of October, they're saying that's gone up to 1.2% now. So it's gone up from 0.37 to 1.2. So the current figures are 2.2 in 18 to 24-year-olds, 1.2% in 50 to 64-year-olds, and in the over 65s, it's gone up to 0.81%, according to this data. And again, a doubling. So greatly increase in numbers according to this Imperial College data. And they're also saying the prevalence has doubled in primary and secondary school children. So quite a large increase in numbers there as well, according to this data. And they say that gives us a reproductive number of 1.56. So Imperial R equals 1.56, according to that. They're the Imperial College data numbers. It was Imperial College, of course, that first gave the data that facilitated the first lockdown back in March. Well, the other important thing, they're saying that gives a doubling time of every 9 days. So they're saying times 2 equals 9 days, according to their data. The first round, the end of September, beginning of October, it was 29 days. So they're saying it's increased from every 29 days doubling to every 9 days doubling is what they're saying. The prevalence remained highest in 18 to 24-year-olds at 2.25. So they're still saying it's the younger age group that had most of the, that was the range. We can ignore that. Still highest in younger people. The good thing about that, of course, is less hospitalisations because they get less sick. Now, official testing, these are the numbers here, official testing, we know they're low, but these are the numbers from the COVID symptom tracker app here. So basically what we've looked at there, we've looked at the evidence from their paper that gives this information. So Imperial, 96,000 new cases per day in England alone, giving an R value of 1.56 and a doubling time of every 9 days is what they're saying. But then Tim Spector took to social media today to do like an interim report. And already we can see that from the King's data, the King's Zoe data. So the King's data was, what did we say new cases were there per day? Basically just over 43,000. 43,596 new cases per day for the UK as a whole. Compared that to the 96,000 new cases every day for England alone from the Imperial data. So what a huge difference, 96,000 versus 43,000 for the whole of the country. Now the King's College data, Tim Spector saying the R value is R equals 1.1. So again, a huge difference. 1.56 for Imperial, 1.1 for the R value. And the doubling time for the King's data is every 28 days. Not every 9 days. So stark differences here in this data. So let's see what Tim Spector said based on his current data today on social media. Just click onto it, listen to him yourself. The man himself is there. So R value 1.1, doubling every 28 days, not every 9 days. Increase in national rates are steady, as opposed to the rapid exponential increase according to the Imperial data. Tim Spector actually used these words. He says, things are not out of control, as you might have heard from some other sources. from some other sources. I do wonder what other sources Tim Spector was talking about. Let me think, what could it have been? Now, this is just a convention in academia. You don't name other institutions, it's just not done. But I think we both know what he was thinking about. So basically, Tim Spector is calling out the imperial data here, saying, well, this is alarmist. He's based now. What does he Tim Spector base this on? Look at all the data, not just one survey, he says. And of course, the Imperial College is based on that React 1 survey, because the data he's basing it on is more than 1 million cases, more than 1 million reports per day. So please, wherever you live, do start logging data, even if it's in just reporting in to say you're well. These million people get a swab when they're sick. About 8% of those swabs come back positive. And the key thing is the number of cases so far, and we have noted this, even you and me have noted this over the past few months, the number of cases that the COVID symptom tracker app is identifying now, those numbers have been confirmed within the same region by the Office for National Statistics 2 weeks later. Because of course the COVID symptom tracker app is live data, the Office for National Statistics data comes later, but the King's College Zoe collaboration Tim Spector app has produced data which is basically fairly consistent with the Office for National Statistics data, which is very thorough data. So in 2 weeks' time we'll know which is right, but so far the Zoe app has got a good track record of being consistent with the Office for National Statistics. Tim Spector points out that theirs is the largest current data source. He reviews it by saying North of England, some suggestions the rates are coming down, but still higher than the south of England, which of course we've seen on the map. He then goes on to say that, basically summarising this, that Scotland and Wales are somewhere in between, which they are. Most infections are mainly in young people, therefore less hospitalisations at the moment, which is good, although hospitalisations are going up, of course, because we have seen increasing cases in older age groups. There are a larger number of cases, but he said we're not seeing overall excess deaths, which of course is tremendously important. The overall number of deaths is not dramatically increasing. Now, there is Office for National Statistics data just been released on that. We will be checking on that shortly. But so far, the Office for National Statistics data and the Tim Spector data has been pretty consistent. 40,000 people die in any normal November. And he's saying that that's roughly where we are at now. The excess in deaths is not high, and COVID is the 15th cause of death nationally. So Tim Spector very much pouring cold water on the panic button there, to mix analogies. He's saying, don't panic about this. The situation is not out of control, and the risks for most people are still low. So there we have it. The data from those two university bodies is contradictory. I would tend towards the accuracy of the COVID symptom tracker app data quite strongly, because that's consistent with the Office for National Statistics. Sometimes multiple collaboration is the nearest we get to truth. But yet this the Imperial College data has had very wide publicity. Perhaps news agencies like bad news. I don't. I try to make it as balanced as possible. So I suspect strongly that in the weeks and months to come, we'll realise that the Imperial College data, with these very large numbers, the 96,000 new cases per day in England, the R value of 1.56, the doubling time of every 9 days is unduly bad, unduly pessimistic. And the situation is not that bad, I would hope. My evidence for saying that comes from the King's College study, 43,000 new cases per day, R1.1, doubling time of every 28 days, and that seems to be much more consistent with the Office for National Statistics data. Complicated, isn't it? To tell you the truth, yeah, yesterday's video and today's video have been very complicated. I will try and I know you can cope with it though. Okay, so let's close with a couple of good news stories. Now, whatever you do try and watch this fantastic video here. Medical detection dogs. I can't play you it because I don't think I'm allowed copyright, but Duchess of Cornwall trains up Matt Hancock. So the dogs have been trained, and it looks like Matt Hancock is also being trained, which is good. He's our Secretary of Health by the Duchess of Cornwall herself. Presumably, well, is going to be our future Queen, so a lady of some repute. And Matt Hancock did seem to be pretty impressed. And I must say, watch this video, just fantastic. They had a load of people lined up. One had a COVID-19 smell on them, and the dog made the diagnosis in 0.5 of a second. Now that's better than the cleverest scientists in the world can do by multiples of millions, probably. Very promising. Now this trial was done at Paddington Station. Lots have been done at Heathrow. Diagnosis time 0.5 seconds. It is accurate. And these dogs could be a game changer. You know, and if something good comes out of this pandemic, if something good comes out of it, it could well be that we start using dogs to diagnose all sorts of diseases. Because they just seem to be absolutely brilliant at it. You can train up dogs to recognise breast cancer, to recognise epilepsy. You know, why aren't we doing that as a screening exercise? So remember that these dogs are accurately diagnosing COVID-19, roughly the same accuracy as the antigen tests, but in 0.5 of a second. Mind-blowing. Right. Let me just show you what these graphics that we often look at should look like. This is the one from Victoria in Australia. Wow, look at that. Wow. Currently in Victoria, 5 people are hospitalised. None are in intensive care. Absolutely amazing, absolutely incredible. So that's what the graph should look like. Unfortunately, ours don't. So here we have the European graph. Here we have the Victoria in Australia graph. Not much more needs to be said, really. Thank you for watching, as always. Just a quick picture for you. Now, this is Tara, who's had some, I understand, very painful back surgery. I'm glad to see she's got some relaxing viewing on TV. I hope she's not just about to... Oh no, I thought she was holding the remote there. She's not, she's holding a Zimmer. Glad to see she's wearing a TED stockings, the thromboembolic deterrent stockings. And now I don't know the name of the dog. My apologies, because dogs are good. But this is Sister Amber, who is looking after Tara after hospitalisations, and I believe happy anniversary, many returns, congratulations are due, Amber. So have a great birthday for the 30th, I believe it was. So thank you, Amber, for watching. Thank you, Tara, for watching. Thank you, this doggy, for watching. And thank you to all of you as well, of course.